Hey guys, welcome to today's MSPs in Conversation. Today we are talking about essential tactics for retaining profitable business. Um, as always, today's session is recorded. We will be distributing this as a podcast. It's available on our YouTube, Vimeo pages, etc. If you have questions during today's session, please put them in the chat. We always love to answer things as we go. Big thank you to our panelists today, Fuzzy, Ryan, James, and Aaron. Welcome back for 2 out of 3, and welcome, Aaron, for your first time. Thanks for joining us. Very quickly, a little bit about Hosted Network, if you don't know already. Hosted Network is a wholesale cloud and telco provider. We started as an MSP, and our value prop to you guys is that we think like an MSP. We're the only connectivity provider in Australia that solely deals with MSPs. And so all of our guys, when we're troubleshooting and supporting you and your customers, are acting as a true extension of your team. If you'd like to know more, feel free to reach out to us. But today, we're not here to talk about us. We're here to learn from our panel of experts. So, Ryan, James, and Aaron, welcome again, guys. Can I get you just to do a quick introduction? I'm sure everyone on the call will have seen your faces on LinkedIn and at events and things like that. But Ryan, who are you?
Well, that's a hell of a question, isn't it, Ben? Look, most people know me as Fuzzy. My name is Ryan Spillane. Ran an MSP for 25 years as Correct Solutions. Helped someone else on the panel here come through and turn into a sales manager, sales director, account manager, and whatnot. But yes, sold that MSP in 2021, exited in 2022, and now run of the company of 360 Consulting, where I help and basically consult back to MSPs on profitability, merger and acquisitions, appraisals, and long-range strategic advice. So it's kind of a very short version of what I do.
Thank you. And James?
Well, I'm James, Director of Academy for Pax8, which basically means that I'm responsible for helping the partners out to grow their businesses and improve their efficiency so they have more sustainable businesses and they buy some more licenses from us. And I've just realised, as Fuzzy was saying, how long he's been doing stuff, that I've been in the industry for 13 years now. I've been coaching and working with technology businesses around the APAC region for 7 years now. So I'm looking a lot older than that picture that's up on the screen. So I'll run with that one.
I was going to say, I think my LinkedIn photo is about 15 years older as well. But anyway, occasionally we should probably update them. Aaron, welcome.
Thank you for having me. My name's Aaron Smith. I had the pleasure of working for Fuzzy, as he has outlined before, for the better part of 10 years. I'm not sure if that relationship and working for him has ever really stopped, but it is what it is. We grew basically. I walked in the door as a cocky 29-year-old and basically suggested that I'd be his future sales and marketing manager. An hour later, I got offered a job and away we went. So spent the better part of that 10 years getting engaged ultimately with many MSPs through a number of different programs, learnt my way, got slapped on the back of the head and patted in equal measure, to the point where now, post-acquisition, spent a bit of time in a rather giant business, learning what not to do from a how to keep customers happy perspective, before I finally wanted my soul back and decided to start a business called Morphability. My role here is ultimately stepping inside MSPs, helping them build out their own sales teams, build out the structures, the governance, the people management, you name it, it's there. Most of you tend to be ex-technical people or technical backgrounded, so sales is often a foreign concept, and that's where I step in. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. All right. So a bit of a question. We don't normally do this, but we're going to do a couple of little different things today. A question for our audience, and I'd love you guys to pop this into the chat and we'll try and answer them and sort of come up with some ideas. What do you see as your biggest pain point when it comes to client retention? I'm going to ask our panelists later some of these bits and pieces, but have a bit of a think about that. And, if you're willing to share, post that in the chat, and we'll go from there. Well, that's the wrong slide. With that in mind, I'll stop sharing, and we will jump into it. Let me just get my question deck up. So, all right, Fuzzy, Ryan, I might start with you if that's okay, and then James and Aaron, if you could also jump in. But what does good customer retention look like in your opinion?
If we're talking a percentage, then look, no more than 5% churn, I would say. Ideally, less than that would be great. But let's also be honest about it, that you are going to have some churn across your customers. Look, 5% I'd say would be nice, 10% if it's really bad. But yeah, look, 5% or less would be what I'd want to see. 2 or 3% it would be great. But let's kind of come back a step and let's be honest about it. Everyone's excited about winning new business, but it's so much easier selling something to an existing customer than it is to go and sell it to someone brand new. Brand new people, you need to basically court them, get into a relationship with them, go and have dinner with them and whatnot, and get them used to the idea of using you and working with you. Where existing customers, selling a new product to them or a new solution or a new offering is a darn sight easy. Again, we've spoken about white space sales and whatnot in previous MSPs and conversations, so go and have a look at those. But yeah, look, I'd say to answer your specific thing, I'd say no less than 5% churn would be what I'd be looking for.
James,
I liked the way that we defined it during one of our sort of strategic planning days. We had 100% retention of desired clients. And that for me is the important part. If you're engaging with them right, you're talking to them consistently, you are having intelligent conversations at a strategic, an operational and a tactical level, you should theoretically be able to retain 100% of the desired aligned customers you want to.
Yeah, and I think following off of Aaron, where my head goes at to what good looks like, it really depends what you're trying to achieve in your business. What solutions you're offering, how you wanting to engage with the clients, what sort of clients are desirable to work with, and then that will structure what good looks like from there. If it is that long-term, deeper relationship type stuff, then it fits into a lot of what Aaron's talking about, of should be able to keep ahead of them and lead them through. If it's more transactional, then it's less about the retention rates, the numbers that you were talking about, Fuzz. They can go up to 10, 12%, and it's still healthy because you're looking at a transactional churn rate. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what's right for your particular business. I think everyone keeps forgetting that because everyone keeps trying to do the cookie cutter approach, and all that is a race to commoditization.
Well, everyone thinks everyone is the same, and that's the catch. But basically what you're saying there, James, is if you have a transactional business that's just doing pieces here and there, 25 or 30% could be okay, and that's not a problem if that's your business model. But if you're a traditional MSP, then you need to understand, as Aaron said, are you tying things back to target customer profiles or customers that you want, then you want that to be 98, 99 or 100%. I like the idea that it is 100%, but let's be honest about it. Customers do go out of business or they buy each other and you don't always win. Sometimes you win, other times you don't. So, but yes, a very high rate of holding is really important.
I think the final bit of that line that we put onto that particular one I just mentioned was within our control to allow for exactly that. Some things you can't control. People are going to get acquired. People are going to go out of business. But that was the final part of that line, was within our control. The last thing you want is a client to leave and you to have absolutely no idea about it. You should be on top of every single one of the customers that you expect and want to retain, if that's your intent.
I guess the question also around the profitability side of it, right? So what does good look like from a profitable side? So at what point maybe we flip the question on its head. What does bad look like from a customer that you don't want to retain? What are some of the things that could be impacting, what are the red flags? Just flipping it on its head. Anyone?
The one thing there's a handful of different lenses on that one for me. Number one is we often washed our clients. It's not just about the revenue defense. We also looked at clients' pain levels, and we actually ended up scoring customers in terms of where we wanted to lean in, and that desired customer piece. We scored them on whether or not they were pains in the ass, to be want of a better description. If they were a high pain but high revenue or high margin, then they were okay. If they were high pain but low margin, low revenue, then they got our attention, and they got our attention from a customer we want to continue servicing. And that took a handful of different lenses in terms of, do I need to review our service to make sure we're not over servicing those people? Do I need to review my actual product margins to make sure there's enough built into it? Do I just need to review your pricing? Because there are some customers who you can go into who are absolutely painful to deal with, but bump their pricing up by 100% and they're totally fine.
I think it is as simple as that too. I always resonate with the old saying of revenue's vanity, profit sanity, and cash is king. So a lot of the time I see,
I like that.
Even if we've got what we see as profitable clients, if they're not actually paying us, they're not even clients. Just to put it out there, the amount of partners that I see out there in the wild that tell me that they've got these great clients, and then I go and look at their age receivables, and these great clients are on that list and they've got outstanding 60, 90, 120 days. They're not clients. They haven't paid you. And I think that's that mentality of understanding who you want to work with, but then actually putting those parameters, like you said, Aaron, around what are the pain points, what actually makes a good, not just a good client, because again, it depends on our business model. If we're trying to be that sort of technology advisor, what we're looking for is a partnership. So it goes two ways. A client is more of a long-standing relationship, pays you. Customer is transactional. So this language is very important in this sort of thought process as well. So I think just understanding, again, coming back to what we want to achieve, that then lets us actually highlight all those red flags, because some red flags aren't as necessary in certain business models as others, and it flips flops. So there's no right or wrong again, except for the fact if it's not profitable or they're not paying you. They're pretty easy things.
I guess that's the low-hanging fruit at the very least, right? Looking at those sorry, Ryan.
I was going to say, why I love what you said there, James, around customers that are not actually paying you and really not customers. But what is it? I know it's a rhetorical question, but why is it that we're so done hard on ourselves, or will we just not put people on stop, or will we not cancel some of their services or suspend some of their services? Is it we just don't like the hard conversations? Is it we're just too weak? What is it? Because it's, again, you're right. If they're not paying you, they're not a bloody customer. But how do we change that in this industry, that we're a professional industry, and if you don't pay us, we're going to turn you off, and we don't care.
Apart from all the conflict side and everything else, I think there's a key element here that's a constant. It's the money in the business is paper money. And a lot of what we do is theoretical, and we don't value our time. And I was hardened by working in the trade services. You slog your guts out. If you don't get paid, you really feel it. Where in our businesses, we sort of feel it, but it's more intangible pain. And we don't put it up there on the pedestal of, we do work, well, where's my money? That's all. The other stuff, I think, is just symptoms of the way that we treat our money in general.
I think to echo that further, for those of you listening in, you need to be aware of the value that you provide and the rate at which that value is commensurate that you should be charging. You have spent years sometimes inside your business learning your craft, honing your craft. You spend years studying. The technology rate of change is so huge that if you are not billing out your own time and you're giving it away for free, you are just simply undervaluing your own service and the time, blood, sweat, and tears that you've spent under desks learning your craft and honing your craft. And if you're doing this properly, I don't argue with people about my rates. I've spent the better part of 25 years in this industry honing my craft in regards to sales. The rates are what the rates are. You're not paying for my time. You're paying for the value that I have learnt over the course of time. And your clients should be having the same experience from you. They are paying for the value you provide to their business and not for a direct trade on a hard cost against a product.
So with all that in mind, what practical things did you do in your MSPs, or that you've seen other MSPs do, to identify the customers that are, I don't know, potentially, a time sink or a profit sink, the cancer, to allow you to focus on where you should be focusing? Were there any things that you've seen that stood out to you?
This is probably the hardest piece that came out for us, but at some point in time, and we didn't have a dedicated finance head of, so it fell to me to learn this. It's one of the reasons why I got the skills I did in some areas, but we got to a point where we were like, some of these clients are not profitable and we don't know why. And so we started to understand the systems we were using. ConnectWise was where we were at the time, and we dug into profitability reporting. And that became a monthly activity for us where we reviewed the past 6 months worth of profit. We had a rolling gauges and reporting on that. And that behavior was a massive changeover to us. It fixed our product catalog. We found a lot of the products we'd built had labor built into them. We needed to remove that because the labor obviously comes out of the agreement, but there are little bits that we found along the way in terms of best practices of how we built products, how we over-serviced. And it was where, by just taking that lens of individual customers and whether they were inside a window of profitability, and two parts of problem. Too little profit, but also too much profit's a risk as well. You've got to get that balance right. And it was just that act of building a profitability review process that gave us a monthly lens by which I had to bring to the leadership team 3 profit-focused customers. And we then started doing it with products as well. But those 3 profit-focused customers were where I then dug in, or had service dig in, or finance dig in, wherever it was that the product problem was potentially. It was always service first to make sure we weren't over servicing. But otherwise, that was the best process we put in play, I think.
Interesting. James, have you seen anything?
I've seen lots of things. The first thing I'd say what not to do is just use your gut. And the reason why I say that is a lot of the time we see revenue and cash and don't equate that to profitability. So a lot of the owners that I see, I'll go, who are your best clients? And they'll know who are the busiest clients and the biggest clients. But they will often highly overestimate their profitability. So that gut feeling on that side, we're too positive. But a lot of the time, our gut feeling on who the bad clients are 100% correct. We're just avoiding it. And I think whatever system you put in, a lot of it is just initially to get over that fear of the unknown and give you comfortability that you're making the right decisions. It's important, and it's how you empower others to do it in the future, but it's not actually that game changing a lot of the time in the short term, because you know who your bad clients are. Why do you need the data? It's not going to change anything. All it's going to do is completely reiterate what you already knew and what you're feeling. And you're often better off spending the time focusing on dealing with that faster, while you work out what good actually means in your business. You can tier your clients however you want, and there's that typical ABCD type approach based on revenue. Often I'd recommend, like what you've been saying, Aaron, is adding parameters to it, so it isn't just revenue. There's other quantifiable things that can help that. And often what I say is, if there's an E, we should always have an E class. They're the clients that should be gone. You shouldn't have any E clients.
We call them future X clients.
I like F instead of E for that reason, but that's fine.
I think it's just backing yourself a bit more is probably the main thing.
I think there's a lot of fear there around, but if I get rid of this revenue, then what am I going to do to replace it? And I think the bit that you often miss, or most of the owners I talk to miss, is that by getting rid of that revenue, you're actually saving hell of a lot of service time and effort sink that can then actually go back into servicing the customers who deserve and should be getting your time and attention.
Which,
So,
just on
go on,
that
James.
quickly, I get a bit facetious with some partners around this, and because they're worried about the loss of revenue. I
No,
always
can't see you doing that at all.
Nah, you know me.
Because revenue is how they value businesses.
Well, it is.
Carry on.
It's what the cash in the bank, right? But are we not for profit? Are we running by surpluses and shortfalls? No, we're not. We're for profit businesses. So having revenue for revenue's sake adds nothing. And this is where I keep going back to, from a financial perspective, you've got to change your mindset. It's not about the cash in the bank, because that's the cash flow. It ebbs and flows. It changes. What actually matters is what your business performance is and the profit that you end up with. A lot of us fail because of our lack of financial acumen, and that's why we make a lot of these gut feels.
I think the other fear piece is, and this comes up with multiple clients, is that there is a fear when you come to increasing prices that you either should have done it earlier, or you're wanting to be the nice guy, or you've got to get out of that fear mindset and ultimately come into, if I don't increase my prices, I can't afford to pay the people that I'm working with and are working for me. If I can't afford to do that, then I don't have a business, and the service you love receiving from me, I can't give you anymore. Stop thinking about a price increase conversation from a negative lens of I'm increasing my prices, and start talking about it from I'm actually now able to add better value to you. Stop thinking in terms of it being a bad conversation. A price increase conversation is a positive one. It means you're running a successful, healthy business, and they should be too.
Okay, so let's continue down that train of thought. So we've talked a little bit around, the dead weight, I'm just going to call it, identifying that, and we've talked a couple of ideas around how to identify that, how to categorize them, future ex-clients, etc. Let's focus on the ones that are profitable, right? Actually profitable, not the ones that are, providing a great monthly amount, but burning up all of your service desk resources. Focusing on those guys. What do we need to do? What are the key things that you would recommend? Maybe one thing from each of you. And James, I'll start with you. That you would recommend that each MSP should be doing to retain that business.
Understand your clients.
Cool.
Anything else is irrelevant, because it's what the clients need. You can build whatever technology, whatever mechanisms of engagement, etc., if you understand your clients. But it's as simple as that.
That's very concise. I like it.
I was just going to say, talk to your clients. That's what was in my head. Talk to your clients, and again, just James said, know what they need and talk to them often. Until they tell you, let's be honest, until they tell you to bugger off and stop ringing or stop dropping in for coffee, or instead of doing something like that, how rare does someone ever tell you something like that? Just talk to them. Too often than not, we're busy, and I get it. But at the same token, we think, they're busy at the other end. They don't want to speak to us. But it's the amount of times by going out or dropping into a client unannounced, or just account managers going and doing what their process is, which we'll talk about later. But all of those things, just speaking to the client often enough, you find out what they're doing, where they're going, what the challenges are in their business. Go and solve those problems, and then tell people that you've solved those types of problems, and you'll pick up more businesses, more clients. It can be that simple.
I might be a little anti-tech, sales jaded, but I'm not anti-tech by any stretch of the imagination. But stop having technical audit conversations every quarter with your customers. Stop it. They don't want to talk to you about that. What they want you to do is show an interest in their business. There are two questions that came out of a brilliant client success account manager, whatever you want to call her. She sat down when she first got the job with every single client in her remit and asked, what makes it hard to do business with us? And what do you like about working with us? With a flip side of that. And what she gathered out of there were a bunch of improvement opportunities. And the final piece that I'd offer to that is exactly what these two have just said. If you're not sitting down there talking to your customers going, what's going on in your business? What's important to you for the next 90 days? Where's the business going? Not tactically, not technically. What's the business doing? What is important to you? And then shh and listen. I know it's hard for me, but you've got to stop talking at some point.
At some point, Darren needs a drink of water or some food, or put another shoe in his mouth.
Your point about the technical side, I think, is very important to highlight. Again, apart from clients don't want to hear it or care that much about it, it stops us seeing a whole lot of opportunities to actually help the client. We're very focused, especially with the cybersecurity stuff at the moment. We're very focused on technical risk. We're not looking at ways to help them increase their efficiencies in their business, how to mitigate their business risks, or how we can enable them to scale and grow. They're the things that the owners and CEOs care about in their businesses. They don't care about low-level technical stuff, but that's what we keep focusing on, and then we've got to stop it.
I think part of that thing is we're all technical. A lot of us are technical owner-led organizations, right? I remember,
Correct.
I've mentioned this on these calls many times, but when I first started out selling cloud products, it was all about the IOPS and the speed of this and the speed of that. I didn't sell much. It took me ages to realize, way too long, unfortunately. I wish I had heard this conversation sooner. Have actual business conversation. Just, hey, what are you trying to do? What's working, what's not? Yeah. Sorry, Aaron, what were you going to say?
I can't remember, mate. The horsey's here. It's okay. It's some sort of distraction.
Cool. Okay, so now the whole concept of QBRs, do you think they help?
Yes.
Well, maybe that can be a blanket because I'm leading this question to James a little bit.
I know.
So.
I'm gonna just say yes if they're full of the right questions, and they don't have to be quarterly. They just have to be at an appropriate cadence.
We need
they call the
another
wrong
name
thing,
other
right?
than QBR.
I've stopped calling them
something other than
QBRs. I started. There's a mob down in Melbourne who I'm not going to give a free plug to, but they've got a stupid logo, and he'll laugh if he sees this. They started calling them strategic business reviews, and I think that's the important part of it. QBRs are not relevant. Strategic ones are. Go, James.
Yeah,
here's your chance.
That's my rant. Is that we get caught into this QBR thing. It's like straight away. So all of a sudden we need to deliver this quarterly. We don't know what needs to be in it, but we need to deliver it quarterly. We default to a whole bunch of health metrics that the clients don't care about. We need to understand our clients again. So yeah, if it's a strategic business review, if we're dealing with mainly micro and small businesses, they're not working strategically that often. So let's not frame it up that way, and let's not try and deliver it quarterly because they're not paying us enough to do that. But we might be working with larger mid-market clients, and that makes sense. This scales up and down, but the concept is around leading your clients from where they are now to a next position. And taking them on a journey, and that, again, that's different for each business. It's not, and each organization, like technology businesses that are delivering it, we don't have all the same clients. They're not all on the same maturity levels. They're different sizes, different verticals. They have different buying behaviors, etc., etc. We need to understand that and then create a system that works for our particular clients. Taking the cookie cutter approach again is a road to failure every time.
Yeah, it depends very much on your client. When I build out that segmentation that we talked about before, I look at revenue as absolutely a lens I look at. Recurring revenue is a lens. Pain to deal with that person's a lens. But then I start washing that against how much time am I actually going to spend account managing these guys? Am I doing it weekly? Am I doing it monthly? Am I doing it quarterly? What is it that factors in, and how much does that actually impact my true profitability against that client? Because if you start to then lens that with what is my cost to retain that client from a sales perspective, you then can start to really understand whether that client, if they're line ball at service, you're bleeding time if you add account management into that, unless you're balancing accordingly. Yeah, but again, if you're having the right chats, the value should shake out of that tree because they'll come to you as their trusted advisor for all the projects.
And look, I'd even add into there, there's biannual and annual. As much as everyone tries to do something quarterly, it depends on the customer. A 20-seat manufacturing business probably wants to see you every 6 to 9 months, maybe even 12 months, because not much is going to change in their industry unless they're getting a new piece of software or a brand new machine that is going to bend some metal for them or do something specific that's going to have a network cable on it. At that point in time, they probably want to talk to you. Outside of that, their business probably isn't growing at 20 or 30% a year. It's probably relatively stable, and they don't want to spend time with you. Let's be honest about it. Most IT companies are going to go and talk speeds and feeds and how good their service response rate was and all this type of stuff. And hey, we saved you from this many links you clicked on. And I get it, you need to do some of that stuff, but that's not a strategic meeting. That's just some compliance reporting you send them every month or whatnot. You just get that stuff done anyway. But I think, yeah, you need to understand what those customers are. I remember one of our biggest customers, I was there once a week. Now, we would do an operational meeting once a week, and probably once a month we would do a strategic meeting. But that customer was 250 seats. Now, again, you've got to define what that's right for the size of customer and the industry they're in. That 20-seat manufacturing company, again, probably doesn't want to see you that often. A normal client probably wants to see you maybe once a quarter if you're asking the right questions. But don't get surprised if they want to cancel one of those a year, because it's again, sometimes you need to let them cancel. Sometimes you need to chase them up and say, no, we can't cancel it. We can move it though. And get another time. You need to make sure you still have that face time to ask the questions. What's happening in their business? What's happening in their industry? What can we be doing better? And hey, why not ask them, is there anyone else you know that could actually do with our services too? Ask for a referral at the same time if they're happy. It's so foreign.
It is.
What I'd say as well on the back of this, once you're working out what's right for the clients, is how are you actually recouping your revenue or margin off it? Like, how is this actually being paid for? We all in this industry see account management as a one blanket cover-all term, but you ask every individual in this call that's watching us what account management means, and we'll get 30 different answers. And we need to know where the money's coming from to pay for those resources. Is it purely to prevent churn? Is it to generate new business? Is it to provide ongoing advice and consulting? What is it? And that's how we right size our engagements as well. And a lot of people in this call as well, probably working with smaller clients, so it's not necessary, but I'm starting to see a lot more MSPs work with the mid-market, and they don't have a service delivery manager that's there for contract management. And so we get a whole lot of different issues. So if we don't actually know what we're delivering, what the value is, how we're structuring it, it's not going to be successful without that sort of structure behind it.
The other thing that's worth noting on that one, just to, I suspect, bring this to a close, is that don't underestimate the value of a 5-minute phone call to fill someone's cup. Because you don't need to go and sit in front of somebody every quarter. If they are that annual person that Fuzzy's talking about, a 5-minute phone call once a quarter to just shoot the breeze about family. Some of the best account management meetings I've ever had, I sat in front of people with a coffee in hand or even not, had 55 minutes worth of just absolutely shooting the breeze. And then 5 minutes before, shit, we're out of time, you go, we probably should talk about business now. Now, whether that's a 5-minute phone call or whatever it looks like, or a pub visit, doesn't matter. Don't underestimate don't underestimate the value of a 5-minute phone call to fill someone's cup.
I like that. I'm also going to add a little bit from my side, with my marketing hat on, is that quite often people don't see the value in having a casual conversation and learning about the individual, not just the business. So yes, we've said learn about the business 100%. What pain points are they focusing on? But depending on who you're talking to within the organization, if they're a decision maker, if they're an influencer, think about the buying persona, right? And how you're going to fill the gaps. Where are their interests? Where do they get their information? And start to take notes of these things, because that'll influence where you start to look for those high profitable clients. Because then you know which lakes to be fishing in versus trying to fish in every single lake. Starts to get more targeted as you go.
We had a section at the top of our note taking, and we were in OneNote. We kept it simple. At the top of the OneNote was a segue section where we just took down the little things that started the meeting. It might be, oh, my kid played for, or something went here, or someone visited, whatever that little bit of personal information was that we got at the start of the meeting. As they start to open up and bring you into their fold and trust starts to build, take that data down. Because if you go out the next quarter or the next half or whatever and go, hey, how'd that soccer game actually go? I had one potential client of mine talk about the fact that his son was playing for Melbourne FC against Arsenal or whoever it was coming over a couple of years back. I had that noted down. 3 months later, when I checked in with him, because he'd said, don't touch me for another 3, I went, cool, I'll see you in 3 months. I asked him how his kid was going. Do you think we jumped a progression level by actually remembering? Absolutely, we did.
Yeah, I think that's an important aspect of client retention, is that it's that relationship retention, which we're going to pivot a little bit around that piece. Perfect segue. So we've built a relationship, we understand the business, but the individual that we're dealing with ups and leaves. What are some things, and we've all had this happen to us. When I ran my MSP, this happened to us multiple times. Some big contracts. And it was just because a new CFO kind of came along and they dealt with someone else, or whatever the case might be. What are some things that we can do to make sure that we are relevant to that organization beyond the relationship or that single relationship? James, I might start with you.
Oh, there's multiple things. I'm going to start with a facetious one, like always. This is why contracts are valuable in one part, because what we've really got is a business-to-business engagement, right? Like the relationships for small business people, relationships are super critical. But this is one of the reasons why having a contract in place is useful, because a new manager can't just come in and basically dump you in 30 days. We've got an opportunity to reset the relationship, and that's not something I'd underestimate. Outside of that, it's providing information and having multiple relationships across the company. It's not just having one key person. We don't just rely on that practice manager at our medical firm. We need to know all the different parties across it, not to maintain a relationship, but open up new opportunities. This is how we help them increase their efficiencies, reduce their risk, and enable them to scale and grow. We can't know that from just one person anyway. They don't have all the answers. People have different pains and challenges across it. So I'd just start with having multiple relationships and a contract.
Pretty 101.
We never had long-term contracts. So we ran on a 90-day get out. So for us, it was 100% down to relationship and multiple levels. I think one of the benefits of running an MSP is that, and you guys are sticky by default in the sense that you know where all the bodies are buried and you know all the secrets are. So from that side of the fence, you're already having multiple parties inside your business, having multiple conversations with multiple people in any business you serve. So you are by default spread broader than a traditional sales relationship. Coming out of a hosted network's probably a perfect example. Traditionally, that's a one-to-one relationship, decision maker with account manager. Whereas we as an MSP, we talk to everyone. Everyone needs support. Everyone needs assistance. So we're already more sticky in regards to our breadth of touch. The only other thing that I'd throw into the top of that would be if you are not talking to an executive sponsor, is what we call them. If you don't have a relationship up at that top level, and your key decision maker might be an IT manager, your owner, director, CEO, managing director, whoever is the owner of that business must maintain that relationship while your account manager keeps dealing with the day-to-day. And if they can straddle both sides of that, that's fantastic also. But we retained a lot of bigger businesses when that run rate person changed, because either Ryan or I maintained that C-level relationship on the way through.
I like it. Ryan, any commentary?
And look, as James said, having multiple touch points, having your engineers getting on really well with the day-to-day users, as well as the primary contact. Your account manager and your service manager should always be dealing with your primary contact as well. And then ultimately, you need to be dealing with levels of the C-suite. A lot of times, technology generally reports under the CFO. even though they generally don't like it. It's where it normally goes to. So you need to have a good relationship there. And what's the first thing that happens when a CFO changes? They want to bring in the people they know. So when someone does change at that level, the CFO, your primary contact, you need to be there face to face, not just over a Teams call, not just an email saying, hello, welcome. If you know something's happening, you need to get there and actually meet them face to face and become invaluable. Show them, talk them through everything you do. Say, okay, here are the initiatives that we've been working on with your predecessor or whatnot, and these are where we're up to with those things. Here are some of the initiatives that we wanted to work on in the next 2 to 3 years. Show that you are strategic. Show that you are better than just the average IT or MSP company out there. Show them that you are better than the incumbent person that they know from their previous operation or previous company that they would like to bring in. Make sure you get in there quick. You can't get in there 2 or 3 months later. 2 or 3 months later, they'll already know what they're spending with all the key suppliers, which generally technology is one of those, and will then already be speaking to someone that they know to make sure they're spending the right amount. You might as well go and have that honest and direct conversation. Get in there early.
Okay. With that in mind, this kind of ties in. The next set of questions ties around our last MSPs in conversation that we ran around compliance and ISO. And we were talking heavily around that they are an area as an MSP that can be used to demonstrate value. So if you're ISO certified, for example, what types of things, and maybe if there's current trends or whatever it is that you guys want to comment on, that MSP should be thinking about to remain relevant, and what should they be doing to demonstrate that value to those customers? James?
Again, it comes back to understanding your clients. So depending where they're actually at, you could get on the AI train as an example. If they don't have decent infrastructure and they don't have a stable environment, they're not going to be open to that. They're not ready for that, just as an extreme example. So the technology itself, we need to keep up with. That's what we sort of do okay. We need to understand what their business trends are. What are our our clients' industry verticals? What's happening to them? What's their business challenges? So then we can bring the right technology. And if you simplify it down, what we really need to be good at is the governance, the compliance side, and bringing the digital transformation down to the SMB space. It's that going back to that managing the risk, increasing efficiencies, and enabling scale and growth. There's so much different technology. What they're really looking for is a technology advisor that understands their business and brings them the right things and leads them on a journey that's right for them. Outside of that, it's all sort of noise and irrelevant. If you get caught up in the cybersecurity trend, the AI, whatever the buzzwords are, cloud back in the day, right? Like, clients don't care.
I remember when it was backups.
Oh yeah, now you're triggering me. It's understanding those and being able to have a leading conversation with them to help them form their strategy and their vision for the future. And it doesn't need to be that complex, but for a lot of us it is, because we're stuck at the infrastructure layer. And what we really need to do is elevate ourselves up to understanding the business challenges, which means we need to understand their application layer from a technology perspective. But we're all too afraid of getting involved in that. And that's what's going to create a whole heap of client churn. It already is. I'm already seeing it.
I think to that point, one of the best questions that I know we ask is, what's impacting your people? How are we keeping, what is stopping your people from doing the job that they need to do? If you ask that question and that question alone, you'll get a far greater understanding of the improvement opportunities inside their business that they're looking for. Because if you haven't asked the question, they're already looking out there. I think the best number I got recently was, I think by the time someone approaches you as a net new business, I think they're 70% right now through their decision-making process. They've already Googled, they've already probably hit up all the possible avenues they can, their friends, their family, their TV, people don't use TV for that anymore, but like they've already done the finding. And if you're not the first phone call, the first phone call, once they call someone, 84% chance, 85% I think it is, chance of winning that deal. If you're the second phone call, you got less than 15% chance, according to current marketing statistics. It's one of the first questions I'd be
Scary
asking.
stuff.
Are we your first call, or are we your second? You want to know how not to waste your time on new business? Are we your first or second phone call? And why are we your second phone call?
Correct. I like it.
Pull that thread.
We did used to ask if someone new come in, we did used to ask, are you just needing to get a third quote or a second or third quote for something? And we used to say, look, we'll give you one. There's no problems in that, but please just tell us, are you actually actively looking to change, or do you just need some competitive pricing? And look, what, maybe 40%, 50%, would you say, Aaron, would be honest back with you? But at least with those, you knew. You went in and put some pricing down. You just did a quote. You knew you were never going to win it. You just sent it anyway to at least tick the box for them. And look, maybe one in every 20 or 30, they might come back to you because, hey, you were responsive, you asked the right questions and things like that. But at least you just got it out and you got it off your list. You didn't then mark it as if it's a lead, as if you're going to chase it up and spend a lot of time on it, because that's the biggest thing. At the end of the day, they need to get, and sometimes we do the same thing in what we do in our businesses. We need to get a competitive price to understand, are we trying to get the right thing? So that's okay. Just be aware of that. Or if you want to play the game, and I know this is being recorded, you just go in at cost plus 5% and put all the pricing really low and screw over whoever the incumbent was, and so the price is really low.
Business.
I know it's profitable next. It's profitable next year when you bump the pricing up by CPI
You're just
and
making
25%.
it unprofitable for someone else. That's what it is.
Lost leader. Yep.
What you guys have said, like, we're joking about this, but this is happening more and more in our industry. And it's not just people just cutting costs. We've gone through it in the past. We've been around for a long time. We've seen these sort of cycles where a big guy will go, we need to come into the SMB space. Let's try and do a land grab. It's never worked. It's
Correct.
going to happen, and it's going to work this time, because automation, offshoring, the standardization of technologies at the point that can easily deliver low cost, quality generic services at this point. And so if we're not providing value, that cost comparison is going to be too lucrative to turn down. And this is where, to your point, Aaron, around people are making buying decisions, and if we're not talking to them first, someone else is going to. This is what's causing a lot of churn at the moment. Like you, Fuzzy, mentioned early on that there's some things we can't control. We can't control them going out of business. We can't control them being acquired. Okay, so that's happening. That's happening more and more as the ATO is cracking down on zombie businesses. There's more exits going on in businesses because the baby boomers and older Gen Xers are starting to sell out. There's also a bit of a tightening of the economy, so we're seeing that pendulum back to bring stuff internal, but we're also looking at that cost cutting of the traditional services, because hey, it's all the same. We all talk the same. Why not get it cheaper? But that's only about 40% of the churn that I'm seeing out there in the environment. 60% is down to two things. We're not talking to them properly and maturely about a cybersecurity journey, or we're not helping them digitally transform. That's 60%. And so I'm hearing a lot of people losing a lot of business lately, but I'm seeing the winners, and they're winning big time, because not only are those clients churning, they're churning and spending more money than what they did before. And so what that means is, as an industry, we're doing a really bad job of actually talking to our clients, finding what they need, staying ahead of them, being the person that's proactively coming to them and leading them on the journey. We're all sitting there being super complacent, waiting for them to come, and basically we're treating them like we're order takers. And that's reflected on the churn. And it's not just me that's seeing it. Like, I see hundreds and thousands of businesses in the region. Microsoft is seeing it as well with the partner of record changes. They've never seen as many partner record changes in the 365 cloud environment since it started. So that should tell everyone something, that we've gotten super complacent. and there's money to be made, and we're not winning. So who is? The ones that are doing it right.
Thank you for validating the topic of today. um, Perfect direction though, because I wanted to talk around uplifting of revenue from existing clients. Ryan, you mentioned early on that that's obviously a lot easier sales cycle. It's a lot easier conversation. If we're talking to our clients, hopefully we're not losing them. Well, how do we get an uplift out of them? James, you just mentioned that if we've got someone else is talking to our client, we're going to lose them, but they're actually going to potentially spend more, right? So their budgets are there, right? So putting our eggs in the right baskets or fishing in the right lakes, is like I mentioned before. How can we drive additional or uplift revenue opportunities from existing clients while helping to retain them? And I'm sure there's a bit of crossover here. Aaron, can you take one on that one?
If you're, again, to the point of if you're not having a regular review of the services that you offer and finding aligned services that you can either attach, there's a handful of different areas that you can, rate increase is an obvious one to increase your profitability or the retention may be less so, but if you're not reviewing pricing for clients on a regular basis, you should be at least every 12 months. From an added value and added services perspective, you need to be listening to what they're actually saying and things that actually align with what you do and how your business operates. And security is an easy one to tick the box on, because at a controls level, MSPs are all about controls. And so adding in a controls-based security something is an easy way to attach recurring revenue services. Productivity is the other one. Microsoft's not going anywhere. If you haven't already taken people from business standard to business premium, there's the next sort of value add. But make sure when you take them from standard to premium, you understand the value you can pull out of that product, as an example. Because if you go and uplift a license and just go, well, there's a price change, but don't then implement some of the things that they're getting as value, you're just gouging. So you need to be clear
you'll make Microsoft very happy.
You're making everyone very happy, including yourself, because you'll be taking the money up until the point they realize it and go, well, you've just bumped my rates. What the hell am I getting for it other than Office? It's a different conversation you need to be having. And I keep coming back to value. Stop thinking about price. It's actually not about the price. If people are asking you about the price of something, you haven't explained the value well enough. You have not articulated and explained what they're getting in exchange for that. If they're talking about dollars and cents, they're either really low maturity or you haven't done a good enough job of explaining the value. And both of those problems need to be fixed. Run away from low maturity, unless you could increase them. And the other side is all on you guys. Add the right products to what you're doing, and you need to be reviewing what's the right products for you, because for some it's security, for others it's added services. And look, I'm going to do the shameful plug of hosted networks here, but adding data networks, the sorts of services that you can plug in and take a clip on and invoice to your customers for an additional revenue stream that's got good margin built in. There you go, Ben, you're welcome. That piece there is exactly why ultimately you should be thinking about what are low touch attach products that you can add into your customer base that increases your revenues, your margin for very little effort. Already paying the techs to do what they do. Adding internet services, adding voice services, adding those sorts of things is easy. Adding more margin on Microsoft, easy. Yeah, those sorts of things should be in your wheelhouse of your low cost ad products, and that's where you need to start.
Okay.
Cloud backups, telephony, all of those types of things. Yep, backing up key management PCs or laptops, those types of things. Yep.
We added a higher revenue but higher cost services as well. Consulting services and those sorts of things. You should be just billing for those. If you can make them into recurring revenue items, even better. There are always products and services that you have the skills in-house to deliver. And that's where you need to look first, because if you have to go and build it or hire for it, that's high cost, high risk, and there's a balancing act there that you need to be achieving.
Off the back of what you just said, to me, there's 12 major technology categories. I won't rattle them off all now, but
we've only got 5 minutes, so probably don't.
No, there's 12 categories at most. Most technology solutions partners out there are only touching on 4 or 5 areas at most. So to your point, Aaron, around expanding our footprint, it's not just a great opportunity for us to increase our margins and things. It's actually what our clients need.
Yep.
They need us to get more things, and they need us to advise and govern and do it. But to your point, we don't actually need to build it. We all get in this mindset of, oh, we need to build the capabilities to deliver X, Y, Z. We don't. There's actually 3 options when we're looking at new solutions. We can build it. We can hire people in. We can build a practice. We can work it all out. Cyber, people got excited about SOC, and we all worked out it cost $1 million before we could get anything going. But there's 2 other approaches. There's acquisition. So if we go, there's a strategic opportunity here. Well, rather than spend $1 million to build something, why don't I pay 2 to buy a business that already does it and already has clients, et cetera, et cetera. But also, and probably the most logical way for everyone that's watching this is partner. Like there's so many specialists out there in these technology areas. They don't want to own the client relationship. They're not good at it. So they're not going to come in and steal your business, but they're very good at the technology specialist area. So they do projects, they'll have specialized managed services. All of a sudden we can sell a project without having to worry about delivering it and get some margin. And there's probably recurring services that we can sell and get a clip. So not only are we making some money without having to invest a whole heap, we're delivering stuff to our clients that they actually need, and we're the ones bringing it to them. So again, to your point, Aaron, we're delivering value. And that value doesn't need to be that we deliver everything and we hold the keys to the castle to everything. With that approach in this modern ecosystem, that's actually probably the worst thing most of us can do, because that will lock us out of the majority of that stuff that reduces risk, increases efficiency, and enables scale and growth. Because all we do is provide end user support and infrastructure management. That's all we do traditionally. So if we can't get out of that, someone else is going to come from top down and take the lot from our feet.
I think to that point, just hammering that one home, the partner model works really well. And I know most of us are fearful of bringing others into our processes, but I found often the best engagements I had were when I'm using Hosted Network as an example. They've got the resources there, as does Pax8 as an example. They have the resources there that can partner with you, sit in front of you, wear your t-shirt, speak in your language, and do all the things. These sorts of conversations are the ones that are best serving your customers, by bringing the right people to the table who can serve and sell and offer what your customers ultimately need. Who builds it's a whole different ballgame. Preferably it's you guys, but at the end of the day, that's the point. If it's coming through you guys and you're billing that value add service, you're providing the customer value. Customers don't actually care who they're paying. They just want to know what they're getting is the outcome they're looking for.
No, with that, guys, we are at time. I want to say a big thank you to all 3 of you. That was some really, really insightful topics. I didn't get through all my questions. I never do. We've talked about a couple of the different webinars that we've run previously, and a few of you have been on both of these, but these are some of our more popular ones. So check out our MSPs enhancing customer experience, very relevant to what we were talking about today, and how to build a great team. They are 2 of our most popular. On July 16th, we have our next MSPs in conversation coming up, winning strategies, navigating vertical markets for MSP success. So we're going to be having a few MSPs on the line, and we're going to be talking about how they went deep into verticals and how they got it right. So with that, we're at time today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you took away some light bulb moments, and we will see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Have a good afternoon.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.